Chapter 21. Lycell glanced up at Tracker. "If you're my son and you know I love your mother, let go of me." At another time and another day Lycell wouldn't have begged Tracker to release him. It wouldn't have been part of the discussion. Tracker reluctantly released a naked Lycell. "Where are you going, father?" "To see about your mother." He headed for the door, and a nurse on duty caught sight of Lycell's magnificent body. She stood to walk around the counter to stop him. "Where are you going, Mr. Samsa? You know you aren't permitted to leave here." "I can go where I want," he said, turning to the young nurse, who had a smile on her face countering Lycell's sour expression. "But not without clothes," she said, standing in front of him. He glanced down at himself, then realizing why everyone questioned his intentions. "Wait." Tracker reached into a closet, pulled a robe down and tossed Lycell a blue robe. He looked down and then pushed through his arms as his muscles strained the fabric. He rushed past the nurse, never stopping to tie the belt, until he was out of the door with Tracker trailing behind him. They passed the stables with the horses stomping completely agitated, and then the kennel with the dogs howling nervously. "What's their problem?" Lycell grunted, trotting fast down the stone walkway up to the ranch door and into the kitchen. The cooks were preparing the food for the entire day, and they stopped to look at Lycell, because Lycell stopped and glanced at them. Usually he's not there when they're cutting and dressing the fresh deer meat, and pulling feathers from the lifeless ducks and geese. They had never been aware of an uproar and any problems within the Samsa household, but this time was different. Wilder let it be known that Lycell wasn't himself. So when the staff watched him rushing through the house half-dressed, his bathrobe open, and his face twisted with sweat beading on his nose and his eyes narrowed, they moved out of Lycell's way. He didn't appear to be the Lycell they knew. He didn't show any recognition of them, even as some of the staff had been with the family for years, since he and his brothers were pups. Normally he was full of jest and happy-go-lucky. Especially since Adrienne had come there and when there were more pups being born, especially his 6, and as they turned into yearlings, but now he had a sullen look about him, and a frantic look like a rabid dog. When he tore out of the kitchen, they breathed a sigh of relief. The 3 people preparing the werewolf's food shook their heads in disgust, thinking that they were right. There was no way a woman could expect to live with 3 men without something happening. And they bet it wouldn't be long before she left one or all of them. Wilder knew this would be impossible. Adrienne had given herself to the pack. How would she leave all her children? Where would she go? She had threatened to leave with Drayton and their young son, but now Wilder had her pregnant, and now where would she go? When Wilder lay her in the bed, he sat opposite from where Robert stood, peering at Wilder, and then looking down at Adrienne. He reached for her wrist to check her pulse. Robert checked her to make sure she was okay. Wilder felt Lycell looming behind him like a vulture. He shifted around to meet Lycell's eyes. "What are you doing here?" Wilder said. "I have a right to be here." "I want the both of you out of the room," Robert said with authority, and not giving a damn how they felt. It wasn't about them anymore. It was for the health and safety of Adrienne and her unborn pups. "Don't you see what the tone of your voices are doing to Adrienne and the babies?" Lycell glanced over and watched at Adrienne. Her eyes closed, her forehead furrowed as if she is in pain. Her stomach moving, and you could see 2 sharp little elbows extending upward on her swollen belly. She held her stomach and kept her eyes closed. Wilder turned and moved in the direction of the door, but he wasn't about to leave Adrienne as long as Lycell refused to leave. Wilder waited for Lycell to join him. Robert strolled over and looked Lycell in the eyes. "I want you out of here too." "Why do I have to leave?" Lycell said. Robert took a large breath. Turned to Wilder with a serious look in his eyes. Robert waiting for Wilder to help him out, but he couldn't wait any longer. "Because you aren't the father." Robert's words were poignant and hurtful. But he would do whatever it was necessary, to make Lycell understand that he was causing more harm than good. He had begged Wilder earlier to tell him, but for some reason Wilder wouldn't hear of it. Now he saw no way but the truth. For the good of Adrienne and the pups. I know I'm not the father, but I am her husband too, and if she's upset, then I want to be near her. Lycell gazed at Robert for a long time. He turned to look at Wilder's face, but he didn't reveal to him that he thought all of this could be a lie. But he knew the truth, and it was in Wilder's eyes. Poised to open his mouth, he decided against it. Then he turned and walked to the open door and stepped into the hall, closing the door quietly behind him, and stopped and looked at Wilder standing to the left of the door. How do I know that you are even a brother of mine? Wilder made a hard breath and closed his eyes for a second. I always knew you were stubborn and unreasonable, but I never knew you to be a fool who could deny what he has seen with his own eyes. You are a werewolf and my brother. I'm not proud to say that now, and whether you want to believe it or not, it's a fact. Do I have to show you? If you don't want to believe it, there is no amount of showing you anything that will convince you. He watched at Lycell. Lycell looked at Wilder with alarm in his eyes. The yearning to believe Wilder took hold, but everything had been muddled and confusing, since he couldn't remember anything, so he remained a non-believer. Follow me, Wilder said. Just maybe he could reach Lycell and bring back some of the memory he lost. Lycell followed him into the library, where he pulled out a large book. In the book it detailed the transformation of his father into a werewolf. I know you don't like to read, but I think you should take the time and read this, Wilder said to Lycell, handing him a large dark blue leather-bound book with gold trim. The next book he opened had a picture of his father, Harper, and his mother, Emily. This is a picture of father. You named your fourth son after our father, Wilder said to Lycell. Lycell's eyes stayed fixed on the picture. Our mother. Yes. Emily. She's beautiful. She has eyes like Adrienne. Yes. I know, Wilder said, turning the page. And that one is you. He pointed to the one in the middle. We were pups then. In one picture there were 3 identical-looking boys with blonde hair and blue eyes, and one with deep dark bluish eyes almost black. I didn't have but 2 sons, and Adrienne named them because I was away all the time. You named your sons because Adrienne was sick then. You named Harper after our father because he looks more like him than all the males in the Samsa family. Harper. Harper, Lycell repeated as if he was straining to remember. Then his eyes brightened. Where's Harper? In San Francisco. He's coming home soon. I told him you weren't yourself. That appeared to make Lycell laugh. And who is that? That's you, Wilder said, placing his finger on a young boy standing in the middle of 2 equally handsome boys dressed in black short pants and white knee-high socks. I remember those pants, he said, smiling. I wanted to burn them, but instead, I concentrated so hard one day and shifted, and they were torn to threads. And every time our mother put a pair on me, I shifted until she got tired of replacing those things. You do remember. My memory is coming back, but it's slow. Lycell pointed to a picture. Who is that? The one on the end is Drayton. High school days. He had all the girls because he wasn't trying to get the girls. Friends, I'm sure. They knew he was safe, Lycell said, chuckling. Wilder turned the page. Still not convinced? This is all 3 of us at our wedding. Now is where you've lost me. It's illegal for Adrienne to marry all of us. That's why she didn't. She married Drayton. Why him and not me? He shook his head, trying to make sense of everything. Do you have to ask that? I think it's evident, Wilder said with quiet laughter. Don't tell me you're Mr. Perfect, and she didn't want Mr. Perfect. Adrienne was going to be my mate forever. But then I got the bright idea that to save our pack she had to mate with you. Biggest mistake of my life. Why, because she liked me more? My dick was bigger than yours? Lycell questioned with a sly grin. Don't fool yourself, Lycell. This is serious, and you think it comes down to how large your dick is. Wilder shook his head and curled his lip up to the right. There are more important things to consider. It's no laughing matter, and because you killed Adrienne's fiancé, the spotlight has been put on us. Our father tried to keep us out of the world's eye. He built this town where we could flourish and go on with our lives by providing a sanctuary for our children, and their children, who will all be werewolves of the future. That's more important than you wondering why Adrienne didn't marry me instead. How can you say that I killed those men when I don't remember? You did kill them. Your wolf, which has never been under control, killed them. The sheriff of Samsaville brought me your locket. Mother gave all of us a gold one with a picture of her and father. Wilder walked to a drawer and pulled it out. He held it in his hand in front of Lycell. Lycell reached for it and opened it. Then he placed it over his head and stared at Wilder. I've been trying to keep us out of the public eye for years, and now look what you've done. Why would I kill him? He stood by while his friends raped Adrienne. Lycell's eyes grew wide. I'm glad I did it. Even if I don't remember. He deserved it, Lycell said. We don't deserve the attention we're going to get because you did a stupid and careless thing. You behaved like a child leaving here because Adrienne was pregnant for me, Wilder said to Lycell, with Lycell raising one eyebrow and flashing a dark glare in protest. But I say I can't remember, Lycell said, raising his voice, shaking his head and touching the purple and blue mark on the side of his head where a wound was still in its healing stages. That's why I brought in an outsider to help you remember. You have to be able to remember where you were before that. There are people looking for you. I don't like John and I don't trust him. That's because you saw how he watches at Adrienne. Even with your memory lost, you still remain jealous. That is your weakness, Lycell, and it will get you killed. I've lost my memory, not my instincts as a man. You are no longer just a man. You are a werewolf, and you need to understand that and adjust. Adrienne would never give John a second look. She's pregnant. Even pregnant, he's watching at her. Even knowing she has 3 husbands, he's lusting behind her, Lycell said, not focusing on what Wilder is telling him but on his jealousy of John. Well, maybe you're coming back to yourself because you are behaving like the Lycell I know. With his back to the door, Lycell heard Tracker, and he turned to see him standing near. What is it, Tracker? Wilder asked. Father, Uncle Wilder, there's a man at the door. He says he's a detective. Lycell glanced at Tracker, then turned to Wilder. But before he could take a step to see the detective, Wilder stopped him with his hand on Lycell's shoulder. You can't go out there, Wilder said to Lycell. I'm going out and tell the detective it's all a mistake, Lycell said. What do you mean? He may have come here to discuss the wreck and not the killing. You can't go out there. You have scratches and wounds on your body. You need a few more days to heal. I'll go, Wilder said. Stay here, Wilder said to Lycell. They can't tell us apart. And Tracker, make sure he stays.